Hi, it's Alora from Firebird Summit. So, this week is Valentine's Day. As a somewhat cynical, perpetually kind of single person, Valentine's Day has never been a holiday that I have any particular use for. However, it is, in fact, an important and somewhat symbolic anniversary in my life. My very first career position, when I was 24 years old, almost 25, started on Valentine's Day 2000. So this week marks the 20th anniversary of my real grown up adult career. And that's really been kind of an interesting time for me to kind of reevaluate sort of what my career has looked like over the past 20 years. And, obviously I've been looking at my goals in my life a lot lately. And I think the thing that is really exciting to me is that nothing turned out the way that I planned. And that never would have been something I thought would be exciting at the time, but in hindsight, actually, I couldn't be more grateful. When I was 24 and I got started in the world of tech startups, I was mostly interested in big, hairy, audacious goals. The bigger, the messier, the more complicated, the harder to make work, the more of a Mount Everest it was, the more interested I was in climbing it. And for a long time, there was enormous validation for me in that process. There was enormous sense of accomplishment when I, you know, managed to complete whatever crazy, initiative I was taking on. Um, and then the feeling would fade and I would have to start over. And as I've gotten older and as the industry around me has changed, and I can never underestimate the extent to which that has had some influence on how I view things. But it's been a lot about me. When I was young, a new project was a clean slate and I could start over and I could do it better this time. And it could be, more fun or more interesting, or I could learn more. It could be bigger, badder, whatever. As I got older, it all started to feel a little bit more the same, and it turned into, as the saying goes, same shit, different day, and it started getting boring. And it wasn't until I started moving into different roles and changing that I could re-inject some excitement into something that had started out as a lot of fun, but then eventually started to wear on me. But what I also realized was it was always a feeling that I was going after. When I was younger and I felt like I had a lot to prove, I wanted to prove that I could do it. And so the feeling I was going after was validation and recognition and all of the things that went with that. And as I got older and I didn't need validation on those fronts anymore, I was going after something else. And for a long time, I didn't know what that was. And I chased a lot of goals, some of which for a long time. And I would catch them and I would accomplish them, and then I would sort of be like the dog that caught the car. I didn't know what to do with it because it didn't actually accomplish what I thought it was going to accomplish. And so it was a really hard adjustment for me to realize that the goal in and of itself is not actually usually the most important part. We chase a goal because we expect that it's going to cause us to feel a certain way. And more often than not, actually, it doesn't. More often than not, the correlation between the thing and the feeling is more speculative in our heads than it is in reality. And so it's not in any way uncommon for us to accomplish the goal and then realize it's fallen flat. We don't get any great sense of meaning or satisfaction or validation or recognition or anything out of it because now it's just on to the next thing. And so, one of the hardest things that I've had to do is to stop and ask myself, what is the feeling that I want in my life, in my work, with my friends and my family? What is the feeling that I'm after? And it's really interesting because once you start defining that and once you start getting clear on what that is, it actually opens up a whole world of other options for how to get there. And then all of a sudden, this myopic single goal that you think is all important or that feels like the one avenue that matters suddenly becomes a series of options. And a lot of those are smaller choices, daily practices, little things that can actually contribute to that feeling that you want in ways that get you there faster without necessarily chasing something that in and of itself doesn't necessarily matter. So, for all the people who recently I think have been annoyed at how perky and chipper I've been, all I can say is, you know, 20 years into my career, I loved it. I dreaded it. I hated it. I loved it again. And then I burned it down and reinvented it. And now I realize that there are pieces that really, really matter to me because what I want out of it is now clear to me. And it means I am open to different options. And what I really found is that that has made it possible for me to be happier longer on more fronts than I ever was when I was focused heads down on chasing a single goal. So, for those people who have a long-standing love affair or love hate affair, I guess, with your careers, ask yourself what it is that caused you to love it in the first place. And what was the feeling that you got out of it? And what was the feeling that caused you to double down and to work harder? I bet you anything there is plenty of option to chase that and to catch that feeling, even if the career itself is no longer floating your boat. So, have a wonderful week. I hope you all have a delightful Valentine's Day with whomever or whatever you choose to have it with. And I will talk to you next week. Thanks.